Hi, Hannah Goss here with ARM News. We're here with Gijs de Boer, who's talking about his Arctic research using unmanned aerial systems. Gijs, tell us a little bit about your research.
Sure. Hi, Facebook. So I'll start with a little bit of background about what I'm presenting here. There's a lot of interest right now in the Arctic and sea ice in particular. Sea ice is really important, both for local inhabitants in terms of hunting and their living generally, as well as for industry and industry's operations in this fragile part of the world. And so there are many agencies and groups that are trying to develop prediction capabilities for understanding the sea ice on short time scales, so 1 to 2 weeks, for example, including work that we're doing in NOAA in the Physical Sciences Division. And so what I'm presenting here is an attempt to use unmanned aircraft technology, which we deployed to Licktock Point, Alaska, through funding from the DOE, Department of Energy, to evaluate the model performance during this really critical time where the ice is first forming. And so I'll start off with a little bit of information on Licktock Point here. We have airspace available to us to operate in, which is operated by the U.S. Department of Energy. Licktock Point is right on the north slope of Alaska. This is the north coast here. There's Barrow. And this is the aircraft we were operating. This is the CU Datahawk. It's a very small, lightweight airplane, low cost, great for operating in dangerous environments like the Arctic. And we make measurements of temperature, pressure, humidity, winds, and surface and air temperature from this platform. And so the period that we were up there for was the fall of 2016 in October. We were there for a campaign called Erasmus, which is the evaluation of routine atmospheric sounding measurements using unmanned systems, also funded by DOE. And we were flying regularly during that time period to get a lot of information on the vertical structure of the atmosphere. So that's one of the key quantities that we were evaluating here. We can see comparisons between the aircraft in the green, radiosonde balloon measurements in black, and then the model output from this coupled sea ice forecast model in the red dots. And this is for 4 different days. Just looking at the general model performance, we looked at that as a function of time. We also looked at the surface temperature, very critical for sea ice freeze-up, and the timing of that sea ice freeze-up is how the surface is evolving over time. And very quickly, when we look at the model parameters in the red and the magenta colors here, you can see that generally the surface was warmer than what we actually observed in the model, and this resulted in a delayed freeze-up of that offshore environment. You can also see things like a muted daily cycle, diurnal cycle between night and day in the model relative to the much bigger variability in the observations here. And then finally we looked at what we call turbulent fluxes, and this is the exchange of heat between the surface and the atmosphere. In the fall, typically the surface is losing heat to the atmosphere, and so this is the surface cooling down to freeze. And we can fly the aircraft at really low altitude, about 10 meters over the water, to look at this transfer of energy from one component of the system to the other. And in this particular instance, the model fluxes were actually too high, which seems like it would result in more efficient cooling, but the reason it was too high is because the surface was too warm to begin with, and not because it was doing things right and cooling faster than we thought it should be. So that's a quick overview, and we're going to continue this work and hopefully figure out exactly what the model is doing well and not doing well, so that we can come up with good sea ice forecasts for everyone who needs it.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.